Tonight, a plea for more drug rehab services in New South Wales Far West. And head-to-head, two local high schools fight to be woodworking champions.
This is Southern Cross News with Fraser Goldsworthy.
Good evening. An inquiry has heard there's a dire lack of vital drug rehabilitation services in regional New South Wales. A number of community leaders gave evidence at the hearing, with many agreeing early intervention is the key.
It's a problem plaguing many regional areas across Australia, and Broken Hill is no stranger. Today, a public inquiry into the provision of drug rehab services for remote communities shed some light on the subject.
We can't just rely on our local health service. We actually have to think about what else can be done.
A parliamentary committee heard a number of witnesses in the Broken Hill Council chambers this morning, including legal service providers, community members and social workers. The local mayor says there's a limit on how much non-government agencies are giving.
Lack of services in terms of NGOs providing a whole range of things that you would get if you were based in Dubbo and Sydney.
Constructing a centre of excellence to help deal with drug rehabilitation and prevention was a well-supported proposal, but a specific model for services would have to be developed for the region.
We could create a model that not just looks about drug rehab, it could look about families, it could look about the Indigenous communities, it could look at young kids and using.
One member of the inquiry even suggested reintroducing school nurses.
Could we put school nurses back in that may pick up and identify those early issues that may stop and block someone from going on to drug use?
More hearings will be held in the coming months. Patrick Reinke, Southern Cross News.
Residents on the Eyre Peninsula are being warned of a telephone scammer doing the rounds. A man posing as a tech support agent from Telstra has been coercing people to allow him access to their computer by advising he can fix internet connections once a fee is paid. Those who have reported the calls to police have described the scammer as very persuasive and believable. Officers are reminding the community to never provide personal information or credit card details over the phone to unverified calls. The town of Boolaroo has undergone a bit of a facelift, with the first stage of a $200,000 redevelopment now finished. Locals say they're filled with pride, with the makeover completely transforming the town centre and boosting the local economy.
Walking through Boolaroo's town centre just became a whole lot easier. The winding paths, green grass and native vegetation, all part of Council's 10-year master plan to bring a new look to the area.
Got curbing and planting. Before it was just a few large pines and some dirt.
A few final additions are still to be laid down, but locals say they're now even prouder to call this town their home.
Really good for the people of Boolaroo to feel proud of Boolaroo Centre.
Very appealing and much more beautiful and attractive to bring people who are here and encourage town pride and those kind of things within the community.
The makeover is also encouraging visitors to spend some time in the town and visit local businesses.
Hopefully it'll be good for the businesses in the town and also for the general community as well, just to enjoy it.
Stage 2 is still to come. Council plans to extend the upgrade further down Stevens Street, adding more shelters and seats for people to enjoy.
Yeah, it's a good start and we're really proud of what we've done here, but we hope to do more in the future.
Rachel Nell, Southern Cross News.
A new project aimed at protecting and maintaining the spectacular coastline on the Eyre Peninsula has seen local groups unite. The initiative will look at anticipated growth in tourism and what demands that will put on coastal areas.
Creating sustainable coastal access for all.
So I've been working for the environmental industry on Eyre Peninsula for probably 15 years now, and we've all tried to work together in the past, but this is probably one of the first times I've seen local councils, the EPLGA and Regional Development Board and Natural Resource EP get together and work on it together.
About sustainable access to the coast, which we have 2,500 kilometres of.
The project will create frameworks for introducing new and improved infrastructure.
What we want to do is to consolidate that access, so it'll be about designating roads and pathways, possibly building viewing platforms.
But also one of the big things we'll be setting up camping nodes, sort of 100 kilometres around the coastline, that will allow people that maybe don't know where they're going to come to a safe spot.
While it seems there's plenty going on, the project still has a ways to go.
We want to shine the spotlight on, and if we're going to attract large amounts of funding from outside the region, we all have to work together.
But it won't happen overnight. There's lots of things that need to be done. Some things will happen really quickly, and then we look to put in a big funding bid to the state and federal government to make things happen. But in reality, you know, it'll take a long time.
Casey Treloar, Southern Cross News.
Port Pirie's Domestic Violence Action Group has today paused to remember those who fell victim to a brutal domestic violence attack. Staggering statistics show every week one woman will lose her life at the hands of domestic violence.
Of abuse, power and control by the perpetrator over the victim. And those types of abuse can be physical, emotional, financial, spiritual, sexual and social.
Today was the 5th time the group has hosted the important event. Coming up, 2 Broken Hill schools go head-to-head in a woodworking war. Details next. It's an historic week for the Whyalla Steelworks, with the first international export slabs finally reaching their destination. The 24,000-tonne order finally arrived at the company's Newport facility in Wales, where it'll be turned into coil. Management from Whyalla and Newport were on hand to witness the occasion. Whyalla will produce 100,000 tonnes for the Welsh Steelworks this year as it integrates into GFG's global operations. 2 Port Augusta community groups will have plenty to celebrate after the local council approved 2 relocation grants. The money will help both the Model Engineers Society and Vehicle Restorers Club rebuild at a new location.
They're the trucks that have sat on this land for over 30 years, and soon they'll have a flash new home. The Port Augusta Council approving a $120,000 grant to help the Model Engineers relocate and rebuild.
When we heard that we had been approved the grant funding, we were very relieved.
And they're not the only ones. The Vehicle Restorers will also receive funds, which puts the wheels firmly in motion for both clubs to set up shop at Sykes Oval.
Yeah, it's good that we've got the grant and we can finally go ahead with the movement.
We think that this is an awesome opportunity for our club to grow and expand and continue to be an asset in this community.
The grant was a show of good faith from the council after the land occupied by both clubs was sold to the nearby Ramsay nursing home.
When we found out the land had actually sold, we were pretty sad.
But they're now both looking towards the future.
We're happy with Sykes Oval, yeah. And we have been, because that's where we said we'd like to go since 2011.
The conditional grant means that both clubs will have to choose either to sign a new lease here or vacate the premises by July 24th. But they're just both relieved to have the financial safety net to keep the engines of both clubs running. Garth Burley, Southern Cross News.
Well, it's not often executive professionals from across the state visit the region, but today Port Pirie had the honour of hosting the Main Street SA conference for the very first time. It follows the town's recent CBD rejuvenation, with hopes other councillors will replicate the town's transformation in their own city.
Showcasing the best Main Street upgrades in SA.
Give Main Street a voice, and actually to also bring professional people who can show the best practices as to what's going on in the world.
Central business districts really represent the heart of a community and the image of the health of the community.
The fact that they've recognised Port Pirie and the work that we've done here, I think is a fantastic thing for Port Pirie, and we welcome them with open arms.
It's hoped delegates will be inspired to upgrade their own main streets by working together.
Practical experience on the ground and solving issues, and continue to revitalise central business districts here in South Australia.
You've got marketing elements, you've got business development trying to improve the mix of businesses, and you've got streetscape elements that all come together, and it's how do you get those elements to work and be a catalyst to revive a main street or revive a town.
We face different challenges in different cities, and we have also came up with, to some extent, some innovative urban solutions.
As for Port Pirie's recent CBD rejuvenation,
I think the street has got a strong identity, so I think it's a good positive step forward.
Rachel Nell, Southern Cross News.
Tech students from Broken Hill's 2 high schools have squared off in the city's annual Woodwork Challenge today. Teams made up of Year 9s and Year 10s put their woodwork skills to the test to earn bragging rights for the rest of the year.
For these students, it was heads out of the books and hands on the tools.
It's been running for quite a number of years now, and we're happy to just continue this tradition on.
The annual Woodwork Challenge sees a team from both Broken Hill High and Williama High Schools given 2 hours to complete 2 challenging projects.
The Year 9s have a tool caddy to make, which consists of rebate joints on the corners, and the Year 10s have a little bit more of a difficult job to make. They've got to make a nail tray with dovetails on the corners.
Students have been busy honing their skills in the lead up to the battle.
They've been coming in at lunchtime. I've even got them off a few periods to do double periods practicing in the workshop.
We've been taught new things to do it properly and quickly. Yeah, no, I learned a fair bit, but it's just fun.
A panel from Globe Timber and Hardware judged the finished products, naming Williama High School the winner in both challenges. Those students will now get the chance to go to the Timber and Working with Wood show in Sydney later this year.
I really think it's good for kids to be able to work with their hands, and these kids are all really keen on doing that, which I'm really happy to see.
Patrick Reinke, Southern Cross News.
Well, May marks Myeloma Month as the Leukaemia Foundation raises awareness of blood cancers across the country. The foundation is using this time to promote services available to regional patients who have to face this fight.
It's something no one wants to have to face. Myeloma is a blood cancer targeting plasma cells in the bone marrow, making it hard for the body to produce vital red blood cells. While residents gathered for lunch today to help fight back against the disease. At the centre of their minds is young Lucy Stainer, who is currently fighting against blood cancer.
We unfortunately have too many people like Lucy, 4-year-old, being diagnosed really quickly, needing to come in and have treatment.
For regional patients, the complications go beyond the disease. No treatment is available outside of Adelaide, with many forced to uproot to receive invasive chemotherapy. It's time and money a lot don't have. The foundation is using Myeloma Month to raise awareness of the accommodation and transport services it can provide.
You can come and stay with us, and we also have a transport service that we can take people to and from their blood cancer related appointments.
15 apartments are available for use. Mr. Diamond says support for regional residents is just a phone call away.
Sometimes it's 24 hours, 48 hours, and they need to be there. If we can take one of those stresses away.
John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
After the break, a Whyalla icon celebrates 77 years. Details next. A classical guitarist raising awareness for Lifeline has stopped off in Broken Hill as part of a fundraising tour around Australia. Murray Mandel has so far visited 61 locations, performed over 180 times and raised over $28,000 for Lifeline.
My main task is to remind, to reach out to as many Australians as possible about Lifeline. Lifeline is always there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
You can catch Murray playing his classical music at Coles tomorrow and Westside Plaza on the weekend. Whyalla Council is opening the doors of HMAS Whyalla this Saturday to celebrate its 77th birthday. Local residents are being invited to join the party and also to discover the region's more important creations.
Sitting at the entrance to Whyalla, this big ship is one of the city's most recognisable icons. The HMAS Whyalla is 77 this week, and the gates of the Maritime Museum are being thrown open to celebrate.
Come through and enjoy kind of at their own leisure. We'll have some tour guides on board where they can chat to and find out some information while they're on board.
HMAS Whyalla was the first ship launched from the local shipyards in 1941. She worked as a minesweeper during World War II, and was present at the Japanese surrender of Hong Kong. After the war, she spent 40 years working for the Victorian government before returning home.
And we opened her in this fashion to the public in the centenary year of '88, so we're really pleased to have her back home again. But it was a real struggle to get her A, out of the water and B, on land.
The ship is popular with tourists, but many locals only know her as a symbol of finally being home.
Very conscious in bringing her back to that wartime feel and that sort of concept on board. So you'll find a lot of the stuff is still original items on board.
Gates open from 10 a.m. John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
Yeah, we wish her a happy birthday. Time now for fishing tips.
Welcome another week around the Gulf Fishing Tips from Port Pirie. You wouldn't believe, I was down at the fun run on Sunday and I was seeing these guys fishing at the end of the beach jetty and catching yellowfin whiting and also kingfish. Fantastic to see shore-based anglers going ahead at it. big time. So if you've got a few moments at night time, just head down to the Port Pirie Beach or also the Bridge to Nowhere. You may well catch yourself yellowfin whiting, kingfish, or even the salmon trout at the moment. They're a little bit bigger than a normal salmon, so you'll have a lot of fun with that. When we go around to the boats, there's still blue swimmer crabs, plenty of squid like we said last week, and the odd snapper. They're starting to drop away a little bit, but I'm sure once we get that first cold snap, they'll still be in at the creeks.
G'day and welcome to this week's Fishing Tips from Port Augusta, Jewel of the North. Well, the seasons are truly swung over now. It's probably what it should have been about a month ago. There's absolutely fish everywhere, basically all the species we'd catch up here. There's salmon over in Port Patterson, and you can bet they're down at Chinaman's Creek as well, plus along the front of the shacks. A few garfish, big King George whiting at the moment, mainly over in the Flinders Channel, but also a little bit further south down around the Yatala area. Snapper are turning up. Crabs are absolutely massive at the moment. If you get a chance, go out and try for a razorfish too if you can get the right tide. That's all we have from the Jewel of the North, and that's over to Whyalla.
There's been a few sprinklings of snapper coming from the further southern grounds of Whyalla. If you work your way down towards Menini in the deeper water, around the 15 to 20 metre watermark, there's been some good fish coming from there. A couple of boats were lucky enough to get into them over the slow tides this week. Early next week, we come into fresh tides. We've got some good weather coming throughout the week as well. Plenty of squid guys down towards the Mount Young grounds. Get amongst those. Also, a few King George whitings starting to show up in really good numbers. North of Whyalla around the silt grounds, and also along the One Steel walls, there's been some big numbers of garfish down there, so get amongst those. And for land-based around Whyalla, some really good numbers of salmon starting to show up at the Point Lowly areas.
We'll start over at Coffin Bay, and there's still been quite a few whiting caught in the bay, and also some salmon trout for the boaties. There's also been some garfish and a few squid caught off the jetty in Mount Dutton Bay, and for the boaties out at Farm Beach, the whiting are definitely improving out there. Moving back to Port Lincoln, squid have been the main species over the past week. There've been some good squid caught up along the North Shore and around into the proper, and there has been some nice whiting caught in the proper as well. The whiting down the passage seem to be transitioning over to winter ground finally, and there have been some fish caught down around Carcass Rocks and McLaren Point. Down on the south coast of Port Lincoln, there's been some good salmon down there still, up around the 2 to 3 kilo mark. Well, that's all we've got for this week. We'll see you again with more fishing tips next week.
Stay with us. After the break, we'll have all the local weather details with Abby. And Abby, we saw a plunge in temperatures today.
Yes, we did, Fraser. It certainly feels like winter has come early, but it is expected to fine up and warm up a little soon, and I'll tell you when next. Welcome back. Well, we saw temperatures plummet across most centres today, and that's partly because of a low pressure system bringing a mass of cold Antarctic air to much of eastern Australia. 18 was the high for Port Augusta, Whyalla and Port Lincoln today. Very windy and cold in Broken Hill with this Antarctic blast. Just 16 the max, and patchy rain and just 17 the top for Port Pirie. On the satellite now, and low cloud over southern SA with a cloud front is bringing the rain, which is heaviest about the southeast, while skies are generally clear over the north due to a high pressure ridge. A bit rough on the waters tomorrow. Southerly winds up to 25 knots, seas at 3 metres, and sunrise is at 7 o'clock on the dot. While it's going to be cloudy and cool to end the working week, 19's the magic number for most centres, while we'll see some sunshine in Broken Hill, and that's despite this cold snap, 16 the top again, and a chilly Friday in Clare, just 14 the high. Plenty of cloud cover about for the coastal areas over the coming days, and we could see some rain, but they'll only be light showers. 19 the top over the weekend in Port Lincoln, slightly cooler in Cleve, but the sunshine will make its return by Sunday. 19 the top, and that's the same for Woodna. And it's a similar story here. There's the slight chance of some patchy rain tomorrow in Whyalla and Port Augusta, 18 the high. It'll be cloudy for Saturday in all districts, but the good news is we'll see sunny skies again by Sunday as the mercury rises into the 20s. And these wintry conditions will remain in Clare tomorrow, a chilly 14 the max. Grey skies in Port Pirie this weekend, 19 the top, but while this southern cold snap will hang around in Broken Hill, we will see a lovely mix of sunshine and cloud for the rest of the week. So Fraser, we're in for some early winter weather, but it should clear up and warm up a little for Sunday.
Thanks, Abby, and that's the local news for this Thursday. Enjoy your evening. Good night.